Hello, you amazing friends. I'm absolutely honoured to be with amazing Bernie Davies and Julia Esteve Boyd. How you doing, Bernie Davies? What's going on?
Oh, I am, as the young people say, I'm stoked. I am so excited. My daughter cringes when I try to act like I'm cool. These, but I am so thrilled, Ed. Do you know why I'm thrilled, all you wonderful people? Because I'm sat here with Ed, the legendary Ed. Yes.
Yay.
And with Julia Esteve Boyd, who is the newest author for Your Book Your Way Publishing, but not just the newest author, she also set a record because, yes, I've always had 100% number ones, but I've never had one release and become number one on the same day.
Yay.
Julia, Julia, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's not even yet out in paperback. It's just a proof form. And I've got the proof, a dash of Decora. Yes, 101 tips to guide you through formal and informal dining events. But it's
Oh,
not just the dining events. It's a bit about communication. It's how you handle yourself in business settings. It's also bringing it down from Downton Abbey to us in the real time, real world. And I must say, guys, that whilst doing her book, I managed to use some of those tips myself. And I am just so thrilled. So, Julia, you've done it. Number one hot new release, international bestseller across Europe, United Kingdom, and Amazon.com. So, not just USA, wherever Amazon.com is. Isn't that incredible?
Yay. Great.
I think it's amazing. And I just want to say really quickly, if you've just come in, a big thank you. Smash that like, share, and comment. We've got a hello from Osman, Bupendra, and Keith, Anger, and heaps of other people. So if you just tuned in, smash that like, share, and comment, and a big welcome. And congratulations, Bernie and Julia Esteve Boyd. Tell us everything. What are your thoughts, Julia? And isn't Bernie amazing? What's your experience been like?
Bernie is amazing. She is so professional. She's been such a world's wealth of knowledge and experience. It's been fantastic working with her, and it's been a good few months sort of pulling it all together. Um, but it's been a great experience. She's very productive and she knows her stuff. So highly recommended for anybody who wants to use her publishing services.
Oh,
Wow.
thank
Now
you.
tell me, Julia, what was your motivation for writing the book? What made you want to, A, you picked the best publisher in town, and B, why did you want to write the book? What was going through your head?
Well, first of all, I picked this publisher because, well, I'm based in Switzerland and I'm part of a few active networking groups. And there was a woman, her name is Melita Campbell, and she published a book very successfully. Based in Switzerland's not an easy country to do very many things from, but she published very successfully with Bernie, and I thought, well, okay, I'm halfway through this book, but I'm going to reach out to Bernie and sort of have a bit of a chat with her. And it just sort of snowballed from there. She gave me the boost I needed to finish and sort of, buckle down and get things done. So that's been a great experience. And why did I start it? Because I think etiquette's pretty cool. And I think the word is a little bit old-fashioned and people tend to draw back a little bit when they hear that word. And I wanted to, I always try and let everybody know that etiquette is something that is important now, as much as it was, centuries ago, but it's just different. We just adapt, but it's something that I think is really relevant for business, for entrepreneurs, for people in their day-to-day lives, for children. And dining etiquette is one of my favorite subjects. And I teach mostly Western dining etiquette. There's so many variations throughout the West that not everybody knows them. And people think, well, there's only one way to do something, but actually that's a misconception. There's lots of different ways to do things. And people sometimes feel a little bit apprehensive when they're, facing a situation that they don't know. And based on my experience, I just started to think, maybe I could take some of my knowledge and share it with others. If I had started this process of learning etiquette 20 years ago with a solid guidebook, like a reference book that I could just look up every now and then and find the answers for, it would have been so much easier. So this was my idea. It's not a novel. It's not the story of my life. It's not a lecture. It's just a book with tips that take you through the dining process from when you might receive the save the date card, the invitation, when you arrive, all the way through certain things that could happen. And it's, each tip is just a little bit of guidance. So it's something that I would have liked, and hopefully people will appreciate it and be able to refer to it from time to time when necessary.
Wow,
Awesome.
just incredible.
I love what if I can interject there, Ed. What I love what Julia said when she said etiquette is cool. And honestly, that's what she's done. She's actually made it cool. And little simple things like, and we all ask that question: what should I wear? You get an invitation. They say it's semi-formal. Oh, that one gets us. And she just broke it down. How to actually dress appropriately when they say semi-formal and when they say black tie. Because I didn't realize that you could actually wear a short dress, to black tie. But then if you read the book, you'll find out when a short dress is appropriate with a black tie invitation and when it's not. Little things like that really trip us up as business people who are, climbing the ladder and getting these invitations.
Yeah.
Wow, fascinating. Now, a few reactions here. We've got Lorna Hollinger, old friend of mine from Facebook, saying, fabulous Scottish accent, Julia.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. We've got Ray Kassar from LinkedIn. G'day all. We've got Paul the Alien Piper saying cheers and loving the tips. So we've got Lee Newton Rhodes from the US saying good morning or evening, you all. So we've got heaps of viewers. And if you just tuned in, smash that like, share, and comment. That's interesting. Two stories come to mind, actually. One story that relates to me is I had a very troubled youth where I was growing up in the foster system and all that. And long story short, I ended up joining the government, joining the army, and I was very lucky to get transferred to a place called Canberra, which is our capital. And when I arrived in Canberra, they said to me, Eddie, which is my name then, Eddie, it's so good to have you with us. We want to help you better fit in here. So they actually put me in basically accent classes and also etiquette classes as well. They actually put me through a lot of, and it's very common when a lot of people work in Canberra in Australia, which is like a very highbrow place. It's very common to actually get a bit of etiquette or even accent training. I was lucky to get both, right? And it was fascinating. It was anything from the small fork, the big fork, how an entree works, the difference between entree and appetizer, all this detail that you need to survive there. It was absolutely remarkable. What are some of your reactions to that, Julia?
Well, I think it's all relative to your lifestyle, to your business, to what you're doing, where you're going, because there are many things that are useful for a lot of people, but there's many other people who these things they don't relate to. They're maybe not interested in attending formal events, but at the same time, there's no reason why you can't have a certain level of decorum or do something at the table. Simple things, for example, if you have a bread basket, passing the bread in the right direction, pouring a drink for somebody else beforehand. These are simple things that you can really, you can give a good impression to others that make others feel, more comfortable at the table. And also something that's really important is conversation, because it's very easy just to talk to the person that's on one side. So just, before attending any event or any kind of dinner or networking event, just to try and reach out and talk to all the people that are around you. You might find out something really interesting. You might make a great new friend. You might not. But at the same time, you're making that person feel more comfortable, because maybe they're very shy and they're not confident, and they don't know what to do or how to start a conversation.
Julia, I read from your book, page 116, tip number 53. I just happened to have opened it up to that spot when you mentioned conversation, and it's keep up the conversation. And you mentioned a little anecdote there about Lewis Hamilton, the British racing driver, claims to have been gently reprimanded by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth during a small luncheon. When he started talking to her, she informed him, while pointing to his other side, "No, you speak that way first. I'll speak the other way, and then I'll come back to you."
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Lovely,
So
lovely accent.
I did. Yeah, she said to him she had to speak to the guest on her right first, as this would have been the guest of honor.
Yes.
Simple things like that. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff, and for real life, it's a little bit old-fashioned. You don't sit down at any dining table and think, I'm going to speak to my person on the right during the first course and the person on the left during the second. Realistically, that's not going to happen. But it's a little bit about having an awareness that you have guests on either side. Perhaps you can reach to the person opposite also, and it's just about being inclusive with everybody. It's much more enjoyable. And
but then in the business world as well, Julia, people are more frequently being given MBEs and OBEs, and they have to go to the palace. So don't discount the fact that you might need to refer to things like this for those kinds of occasions. Ed, you never know for you, the way you are going.
And you never know who you might meet. That's true.
Well, it's funny. Even though I'm more of a LinkedIn guy these days, we used to go to the business. I used to be quite high up in the local business chamber in Sydney, and I used to have to put on a suit all the time. And sometimes you do some quite formal stuff. I even got visited a few times by our Secret Service a few times, saying, "Hey, listen, we got such and such here. Ask me a bunch of questions." It's funny that, because I think to anyone watching, if you're especially doing a lot of business networking, and I know you're giving a lot of fine dining examples, but if I can slightly add to that, I think this applies to you standing in a group of people having canapes.
Absolutely. Yes.
Basic stand up straight, include everyone. Don't talk with your mouth full. I know this sounds obvious, but we actually went to a function last night, right? We went to a big political function, which is quite highbrow. And interestingly, a lot of people who know better, you talk to them and they'd be they'd be like, it's like a horse or a camel or something. And these are people in suits who know better, who they don't understand the idea of not talking with your mouth full. And it's like, I grew up in the foster system for a while there. Even I know better than this. What are some of your reactions to this? Because I was actually quite shocked by some of the poor etiquette I saw from people that know better.
Yeah, and you raised a really valid point. It's so true, because people don't, they can be very well educated, have very successful businesses, but they don't actually realize that if they're having a conversation with somebody and something as simple as eating a canapé with their mouth full or trying to talk at the same time, the person that they're communicating with will be focusing on that action rather than the words that they're actually trying to speak, or the point that they're trying to make, or the business that they're trying to sell. So it's small things that people do think, oh, this is so, stupid, it's so irrelevant, but actually they're really, really important, because everything you do in your day-to-day life, when you're eating with friends, family, formally, informally, people have this opportunity to judge you, and they will judge you. They may silently judge you. They may not criticize you, but they will judge you, and they will be aware that you are, doing something that's slightly off-putting.
Yeah, it's like when you said in the book about the tricky foods, like the ones with the pips, how to remove food from your mouth. Talk us through that, those little tricky bits that people make mistakes about.
Yeah, well, when it comes to these kind of tricky foods, so pips and stones, for example, you're at a dining table, you're with some people maybe you're trying to impress, it's a business dinner, I don't know, but it's some kind of situation. and you have pips and things in your mouth. There's many etiquette consultants that say, well, you have to pop it back onto your fork and then put it back on your plate.
Right.
It looks much more elegant and you're not using your fingers. But I completely disagree with this because it depends.
Imagine like you got a pip and you spit it onto your fork and then you put it. Everyone will be staring at you going, we're not hiring this guy.
Exactly. You're drawing attention to yourself
and
for the
that
wrong
was what
reason.
I used to do. That's how I was trained, to put it on your fork first.
Yeah, some people believe that the way a food enters your mouth is the way that it should come out, but I disagree. I mean, it's not written in an etiquette Bible that you have to do it this way, but it's just a very common belief. And for me, it's just much more discreet to take it out your mouth, pop it on your plate, wipe your finger on your napkin. And also there's variations with how we use our utensils throughout the West. So some people have their fork in one hand with it turned upright. Other people have it, the fork turned downwards. So if you then switch hands and make this obvious, display of spitting something back onto your fork, then you look as if you don't know what you're doing with your utensils. You're drawing attention to something unpleasant that has happened in your mouth. So just be discreet. And it's a silly example, but I thought it was important to mention.
It is like,
what the hell? Bernie, save me. Bernie, I don't know what to say. Save me, Bernie. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, eating pasta. Pasta. That's the other one.
Yeah, pasta. But I mean, people believe that you can cut your pasta, not short pasta you eat normally, but if you have spaghetti, for example, people believe that you have to use a spoon to twirl it, and you put it on the spoon or you use the fork, and they make such a drama about this. And this is just a belief that it's the correct thing to do. But
so on that one, I can play trump card on Italian stuff, right? I actually cleared this up with a few very stylish Italian friends. You know how some people will cut pasta as they eat. So let's say you get fettuccine or you get pasta or whatever, like spaghetti, right? And they'll cut the pasta. In Italian culture, that's the most offensive thing you can do. So if you have a plate of spaghetti or fettuccine and you slice it up, you're basically giving your host the finger, right?
Well, exactly. It's just considered you're ruining the food. You're not handling it in the appropriate manner.
Yeah, and interestingly, and again, having a amazing Chinese wife who's actually sitting opposite me right now, correction, Hong Kong. And interestingly, when you're eating yum cha or something, you cannot cross the chopsticks. The moment you cross the chopsticks, that is basically doing a big up yours to everyone around you. And it's funny. I love all these etiquette lessons. And interestingly, I find there's a lot of myths out there. There's a lot of stuff like, I had no idea. Like, I was genuinely shocked when you were saying that you actually spit a pip back on your fork. I'm like,
no, it's
what
just
the hell?
You don't do it, but some people believe you do, but you don't. And it's interesting, actually, we're talking about spaghetti in Italian culture. You twirl the spaghetti on your fork, so you just have a nice mouthful. You eat it quietly, you enjoy it. But as you and your wife will probably know, in China, when you're having noodles, you can slurp and make noise, and no problem at all.
Slurping
is a sign of appreciation.
Yeah, slurping is actually a compliment to the chef and a compliment to your host. In fact, if you don't slurp, it means you're not enjoying it.
Exactly, but the opposite in so many sort of Western cultures. You make any noise at the table, and it's a real no-no. So it's a really interesting subject, and I've just covered sort of the basics of Western etiquette. But if you start with introducing other cultures towards the east, then it's a whole different ballgame entirely.
Amazing.
You gave us an anecdote about your experience in the east once, didn't you? Remember that story you told about you thought you were doing the right thing in the Chinese culture, but it was the wrong thing?
Oh, I think the story I told you was about the Japanese guide that I had. Yes, I had a Japanese guide. The very first trip I went to Tokyo, maybe 15 or more years ago, and I was with a Japanese guide, and I spent a week with this guide, and I learned everything about tea ceremonies, about Japanese etiquette. I visited temples, and it was amazing. And then the Japanese culture is a very proud culture, and it's very formal. It's the most formal culture. And there's no touching and there's no kissing, it's certainly not in public. But after being a week with this woman, I thought, well, she's my friend now, and we've spent a week together, this is amazing. And I remember she was waving me off on the train, and I just did what's natural to me, and I just reached out and I grabbed her and I gave her the biggest hug and said, thank you so much. It's been the most amazing weekend. I've learned so much. I really appreciate it. And she froze, and she was horrified because I had crossed that boundary. And here was me thinking, obviously 20 years ago, very naive, thinking I know everything about etiquette already, which I didn't. And she was horrified. And the minute I could feel her whole body tense.
Tensed up. She was like, oh, that sort of reaction.
Her eyes were looking around as if to say, hope nobody's seen this, hope nobody's watching me. And then I thought, oh, wow, I've still got so much to learn. It's never ending. You can never know everything about a culture, but we can always learn from our mistakes. I think is important.
Just a few reactions here. We've got Winston Doyley saying, is that a Jamaican accent, Bernie? So you got
yes.
Go.
Oh, thank you. And Winston sounds like a Jamaican name. Is he Jamaican?
Yes, so I got Winston Doyley, who's a Jamaican guy. Is that a Jamaican accent? So of course it is.
Yes.
Was yourself saying you're Jamaican me crazy? We got Thomas J. Parrish, who's given a laugh and smiley face. We've got Jarriman, who says hello, Edward, and Lee Newton Rhodes, who was here before, but he had to move, but he's loving it. We've got 15 people watching. So if you are watching now, hit that like, smash that share, leave a comment, and please connect with Julia.
And buy that book on Amazon. It's available in Australia or wherever you are in the world. Click on Amazon, search A Dash of Decorum, and buy that book. We want to get it to #1 bestseller. It's our #1 hot new release. We want to be #1 bestseller.
Can you hold it up, Bernie? Can you hold it up? Hold up the book and hold up the book again. Tell us all about it, Bernie.
Yes, so it's A Dash of Decorum, 101 tips to guide you through formal and informal dining events. But as you can hear, it's not stuffy. It's relevant. It's current. Yes? And if you do get called before the Queen, then it will also help you. Yes? But it has a lot for you for everyday life. And it's really perfect for your coffee table to just refer to it but over and over. So hit Amazon.co.uk if you're in the UK, .de and .fr wherever in Europe you are, .com if you're in Australia, .com.au. Let's get this baby to #1 bestseller internationally. It's now #1 hot new release internationally and bestseller internationally. Yes.
Wow.
Yay,
wow.
Great.
Yay.
Thanks, Bernie.
So just a quick question then, as we wind things up, and thank you for watching, everyone. I just want to ask a few closing thoughts. So if for anyone that buys this book, how is it going to help them? What transformation will this book give them?
I think, well, my idea is that because I want it to be a guidebook, not necessarily something that you pick up and read from cover to cover, it will be something that will give them a little bit of confidence if they're faced with a certain situation. So it could be somebody who's very young, they're attending their very first black tie, and they think, oh, what do I wear to a black tie event? And they can look at the book very quickly, have a short description. I think there's a little checklist about the sort of do's and don'ts of what to wear. Obviously, for women, it's much more complicated than men because men just have the rules set out for all these events. But for women, it's much more complicated. But the idea is that it's a little bit of a checklist. Or I'm going to a formal event and perhaps I'm going to be served with several several utensils. And okay, a lot of people know that you start from the outside and you work your way in, and that's the rule that people tend to follow. But there are variations in Western cultures as to what cutlery utensils to expect. So just little things like that people can look at from time to time when they need a little bit of guidance.
Excellent. And the thing is, Amazon tends to choose a category for your book. You have an option to choose 2 per listing, whether it's Kindle or paperback or hardcover. And then Amazon chooses what they think is the appropriate category. And their chosen category for this book is business finance reference. So Amazon actually believes that, yes, that it's important to business because it can affect how you actually come across and how you're accepted. So, and would you believe that was the first category it became number 1 in? So clearly, in the people who are looking in that category do agree. So it's definitely a reference book, and it's definitely for us as business people.
Yeah, no, this is true. There is a section for business in the book because many people just think, well, I'm attending a business dinner, and it doesn't matter. And there are a lot of business dinners that are just really about building relations. So your table manners are obviously important, but there's other little things. If you're a guest, do you have any particular duties when the bill arrives? Should the bill be split, or does some person have a responsibility? And if you're hosting a business dinner, perhaps for the first time, maybe you want to think about, where you're going to seat your guests, how you're going to seat them, the type of menu you want to offer. So there's a lot of considerations that are very relevant for the business world. And it's not all about how you use your fork.
Wow. Brilliant. Love it. Well, I'm going to say a big thank you for that. Thank you to all our viewers for watching. If smash that like, share, and comment too. If you're watching the recording, buy the book and connect with these wonderful ladies. We'll just go to closing thoughts down remarks. Bernie, would you love to give your closing thoughts and remarks to our wonderful viewers from across the world, especially LinkedIn?
My closing thoughts are: never dismiss anything out of hand. You never know the value that you'll find in it. So just as Julia felt, she would not ignore that nudge to write that book. Do not ignore that nudge to buy that book and have that resource.
Pleasure. And for anyone watching, if they want to have a wonderful publisher, of course, look no further than Bernie Davies. Is that a fair remark, Bernie?
Oh, yes, definitely. I thank you so much, Ed. And listen, thank you ever so much for always being supportive to the community, to the international community that I am a part of, and that so many of us are so privileged to be a part of.
Oh, beautiful, Bernie. And Julia, closing thoughts from you.
Well, if anybody has their inner book ready, ready to share with the world, I definitely recommend that you contact Bernie, because she will push you and question you and make it happen. And my last thoughts about my book and what I do is that etiquette is cool. Etiquette is really important. It's just as simple. Somebody said to me yesterday, actually, I don't know all the formal manners, but I think etiquette is just an extension of kindness. And really, that's so true. It's just an extension of kindness, and how you eat and how you behave at the table and who you talk to and who you don't offend is just an extension of kindness. So etiquette is cool, and it's really relevant for modern life. It's not, Downton Abbey style etiquette. It's all very interesting. It's very fascinating, but we don't live in that world. So it's nice to know, but not necessarily what we need to follow nowadays. Nowadays, we live in a real life and we have different experiences, and etiquette is cool and it's very relevant.
It is cool. Yeah.
Brilliant. Love it. Well, thank you, ladies. Thank you, everyone. Like, share, and comment. Check out the book. And I just want to say bye, everyone. Love your work, and thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.